UFC Atlanta, Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman takes place this weekend. I'll be giving my full card predictions and breakdowns for every single fight, starting with the early prelims, making it up to the main event. And we actually have a pretty stacked fight night coming our way here. It starts off in the bantamweight division with Malcolm Wellmaker taking on Chris Moutinho. Um, Malcolm Wellmaker in his last fight, he knocked out Cameron Simon in the first punch with a just one and done knockout blow, right hook, sent him to the shadow realm. I personally thought that Wellmaker was going to lose that fight. He was making his UFC debut against someone like Simon, whose only losses were to Christian Rodriguez and Payne Talbot. Um, and I thought that just the experience and like Wellmaker, he was only 8-0 at the time, 30 years old, and yeah, he had an impressive win on the Contender Series, but before then was kind of can crushing. But to get through Simon how he did was very impressive. Um, I was wrong about the experience. I was wrong about Malcolm Wellmaker, I guess, and he's coming in here with with a step down in competition. Chris Moutinho steps in on about 2 weeks' notice. We all know Chris Moutinho for fighting on the undercard of McGregor Poirier 3 when Moutinho fought Sean O'Malley, where Moutinho was the guy with the green hair. The guy was a fucking punching bag. Ended up getting standing TKO'd in round three. He's mostly just known for being tough. Um, but people forget, man. Chris Moutinho in the fight after got knocked out by I think his name is Guido Canetti in the first round. It was another standing TKO, but the guy was fucking cooked. He was out on his feet. And Canetti at that time is 42 years old. So Chris gets cut after that fight, going 0-2, both by KO. And he ends up finishing his next five fights outside of the UFC. His best win was over Mateus Silva, I think his name was, or something. He was like 8-2. But overall, just he wasn't beating good competition. He's coming in here at like a plus 800 dog. I think that's probably valid, to be honest. I don't see how Chris Moutinho is going to win this fight. Is he going to outstrike Wellmaker? Fuck no. Power for power, Wellmaker by a mile. Wrestling, I've never seen Chris Moutinho wrestle. Personally, I'm sure he does, but from the UFC and the couple fights that I watched, I didn't really see it. The guy's just not very good. He's not UFC level, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people were turning down Malcolm Wellmaker. That's why they had to turn to Chris Moutinho, which honestly makes sense because Wellmaker's fucking dangerous. Not a lot of gain if you beat the guy, and a lot to lose when he knocks you out. So I'm going to take Malcolm Wellmaker as the early pick to win this fight by round one or two knockout. Um, just don't see Chris holding up in this one like his past fights. We move on to Jamie Lynn Horth taking on Vanessa Lomonsa Demopoulos. The first thing I want to say in this fight is the size advantage that Jamie Lynn Horth has in this fight is going to be significant. She's 5'7" compared to Vanessa's 5'2", and the reach is 66 compared to T-Rex arms 59 inches for Vanessa Demopoulos. Demopoulos coming off her last fight where I thought that she was going to beat Talita Alencar. You know, Talita Alencar is not very good. All she does is grapple. I believe she had a fucking two fights or something with Stephanie Luciano. One in the Contender Series that went to a draw, and then lost to her in the debut. Um, it just wasn't impressive. Talita, if you kind of stuff her takedowns, she literally fucking sucks. I thought that Demopoulos would be able to do a little bit better, and if it went to the ground, be able to actually threaten something. All she went for was these stupid fucking heel hooks. I was raging at the TV watching that shit. Vanessa's not good though, man. She's 36. I mean, Horse 35, but Vanessa's got 9 fights in the UFC. She's 5-4, but realistically, she's been gifted about 3 decisions. Like she should be 2-7 if I'm going to be 100% blunt honest. Horth, on the other hand, is 2-2, coming off a split decision loss to Veronica Hardy. Before then, I'm just having a shocker. Sorry. Her losses in the UFC are a split decision of Veronica Hardy and a unanimous decision of Miranda Maverick, who's in the co-main event tonight versus Rose Namajunas. Horth imposes her best will on the ground, looks for takedowns, looks for that clinch time. She's not very good on the feet, but again, better than Vanessa Demopoulos. This fight's going to be boring. It's going to be Jamie Lynn Horth going on top, most likely going to a decision. However, there could be a submission in this fight just because how big Jamie Lynn Horth is, and the fact that it's going to be on the ground so much that gives Vanessa a little bit of rubber room to land a little fucking armbar off her back. But I could see Horth actually locking in a late submission. I will be taking her to win this fight by a 30-27 decision, however. Just a top heavy, clinch fest, fucking boring ass women's fight. We move on to the welterweights. Yeah. Phil Rowe taking on Ange Lusa. Um, to be honest, I wasn't fully sure if Phil Rowe was still in the UFC because this guy hasn't fought in like a year and a half. He's 3-3 overall, 10-5 as a pro. However, this guy's got a great fucking frame. He's 6'3" and got an 81-inch reach for welterweight compared to Luce's 5'10" and 74-inch reach. So pretty significant frame difference there. It's a tough fight to call. Rose on a two-fight skid, losing to Jake Matthews in his last one, and before then, a very close split decision to Neil Magny. There was a time where he did find some KOs. He does do a lot of grappling tournaments, obviously losing to guys like fucking Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, the best of the best. So like he is getting some experience there. I'm interested to see if Phil can survive early and get it to round 2 and 3 because Angelusa for the first 8 minutes of the fight is a very fucking entertaining, very good fighter. But then he just kind of falls off a cliff. His cardio and his technique just goes out the fucking window, and he makes you sweat. I remember I was going back when Reese McKee fought Daniel Frunza for McKee's first win in the UFC. I went back to watch some tape on Reese McKee versus Angelusa was one of his fights, and Angelus was beating the piss out of him first round and a half, first 2 rounds. And then Reese almost 10-8s him and almost finishes him in the third round because he was so tired. Lusa, that is. Um, Phil Rowe is a guy, though, that kind of struggles to get that offense off sometimes. Um, he he came into the UFC hot with that Dana White Contender Series win of a round 3 knockout where his hands look great. And then you just kind of haven't really seen it too much. I mean, he did have a knockout over Nico Price, but again, both guys dropped each other. It was a comeback win for Rowe. Um, and in his last 2 fights, he's just kind of not thrown enough. He hasn't put enough output out there, and it feels like at the end of the rounds, at the end of the fight, that Rowe just didn't. He just could have done so much more almost. Angelus is a guy that's gonna give you everything and then gas out. So it's just kind of, do you think that Luce is going to gas out and Rowe's going to be able to take over and maybe find a late finish? Or do you think that Luce is going to be able to clinch those first 2 rounds? And because he'll probably suffer the third, he'll probably lose the third round. Um, do you think that he's going to be able to win those first 2 rounds? I personally do. There's even a chance for a round 1 KO, but I am going to go for Angelusa to win this fight by decision. Yes, he's so undersized, but he does have the wrestling. He does have some takedowns. Phil Rowe has like a 50 or 60% takedown defense. Um, he really only wins this fight if he kind of just puts it on a little bit more. And I haven't seen that in the last couple of years. He's taken a long layoff. He's 34 now. I'm going to have to take the younger, the hungrier guy, Angelusa, to win this fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. We move on to the light heavyweights. Adolfo Bellato takes on Paul Craig, a rescheduled fight. Bellato had to pull out a couple weeks ago because he had fucking herpes. I thought that his career was kind of going to be over because, like, what if this guy bleeds and sweats and, like, obviously it's going to happen. And, like, I don't think you really get rid of herpes. I think that's kind of one of those ones that's with you. So pretty interesting to see this one. Paul Craig is back up at 205 after his failed mission at 185. I just think that he's in the point of what the fuck do I do with my career because I think it's time to retire. He's 37 now. He's 9-1 in the UFC. Um, People forget, man, he is the only person to beat Magomed Ankalaev. He finished him with a triangle. He also snapped Jamal Hill's arm in half and TKO'd him on the ground. He also submitted Nikita Krylov. But then again, he also has like losses to like fucking I'm pretty sure like Tyson Pedro and the guy loses fights like no tomorrow. He's on a 3-fight skid or something. Lost his last 3 to Bo Nickel by decision. Finished bad by Kyle Bahalio and submitted by Brendan Allen. I don't think that Craig's going to be able to get this fight to the mat, and if he doesn't, the guy's a fucking sitting duck because he got overhanded decision by Bo Nickel, and we just saw how bad Bo Nickel's striking was against Reinier Ritter. I think that strike for strike, he gets literally destroyed by Rodolfo Bellato, and I'm not going to act like Bellato's some fucking world beater. The guy's one win and one draw in the UFC, draw to Jimmy Crute. His two losses as a professional come both to Vitor Petrino by knockout. Again, is Paul Craig going to knock you out like Vitor Petrino? Fuck no. Um, and Bellato is a guy that's just made a heart. We've seen him throughout his career versus Ihor Potieria, where he gets dropped a few times and then just comes back and rallies in that same round and finds a TKO finish. Um, I just think that this fight's going to play out on the feet, and in that case, Rodolfo Bellato is going to have a significant strike advantage, and he's going to put out Paul Craig and send him to retirement. Rodolfo Bellato to win this fight by round two, KO is the pick. We move on to Ricky Simon taking on, I have in my notes, Charles Jourdain. That fight is now canceled, so he's taking on Cameron Smotherman. I'm gonna have to go off my dome for some Cameron Smotherman notes because I genuinely forgot and I didn't change my notes. Starting with Ricky Simon here, however, 32 years old. He's 21-6 overall, 9-5 in the UFC. He snapped his three-fight losing streak in his last fight over Javid Basharat brutally with a round one KO. Took Javid's undefeated record, I believe. Maybe he had one loss before then. To forget. Before then, he lost to Vinicius Oliveira, Mario Bautista, and a round five KO to Song Yadong in a main event. That's Ricky Simon once upon a time. Um, Before that era, however, Ricky actually looked like kind of a killer. He was on a win streak, finishing most guys with solid losses. He has a submission win over Merab Dvalishvili. He took Montel Jackson's O. He's a wrestler through and through. He's got crazy pace. He's got a good right hand. He's got good power. And my question is originally was, will Jourdain be able to stop the takedowns, and how can he be the aggressor? Um, so now I'm going to have to kind of improvise here. Do I think that Cameron Smotherman is going to be able to stuff the takedowns of Ricky Simon? No, I don't. Smotherman's coming off a split decision, maybe a unanimous decision loss to Seri City in his last fight, where the guy just kind of got outstruck. Um, he has a KO loss to Cheryl Lampos Gregorio, I believe, in the Dana White Contender Series way back in the day, if I can pull that one out of my ass. That aged fucking terrible. Who did he beat? He beat Jake Hadley on short notice, which was an actual decent win. He was like a plus 4 or 500 underdog in that fight. Um, Again, I just don't really see the success from Smotherman. If he can stop the takedowns and keep the boxing technical, yeah, he'll probably win a decision, but that's too perfect of a fight. It's MMA. Ricky Simon is going to win this fight by decision, I want to say. However, there could be a little late submission in there. We move on to Cody Custom Made Durden taking on Jose Ochoa. One of my favorite underdogs on this card is Cody Durden. 17-7 overall, 5-6 and 1 in the UFC. Stamp in the flyweight division and flyweight top 15, kind of from that 15-12 range. Um, Always fights, always a great fighter, always in great fights. He's very well rounded. He lost his last fight, however, to Joshua Van by decision, where the cardio was a little bit shocking. I haven't really seen Cody Durden's cardio fall off a cliff as bad as it did in that fight. He was getting hurt. He was getting teed off to the body. Before then, however, Cody Durden submits Matt Schnell with a ninja choke. He was getting touched up a little bit in that fight, but did find the finish. Before then was finished by Bruno Silva, where before that TKO, not lying, Cody Durden genuinely looked amazing. It was pretty tough to see him get clipped with that uppercut in that fight. Um, I'm going over like losses, but again, like lost to Mokaev, but he was on a four-fight win streak at one point with names like Energy, Charles Johnson, and Jake Hadley. And in that Charles Johnson fight, he had 11 takedowns. I think that that approach in this fight is extremely smart. Ochoa is very solid is very solid, but he's very inexperienced compared to Cody Durden in every single aspect of mixed martial arts. Ochoa is 7-1, 0-1 in the UFC, and he's the favorite. He lost his debut, however, to Lonnie Kavanaugh by a close decision, 29-28. Ochoa being the favorite, like I said, isn't right to me. The guy has very slick striking. He's got some nice spinning kicks. He trains at Chuta Box with Charles, but we haven't really seen his ground game tested. And his wins outside of the UFC, which he doesn't have any in the UFC, so all outside of the UFC aren't very good. I'm gonna take a shot on Cody Durden to win this fight by submission. I actually think that if he can implement, and he's smart, he's gonna get some takedowns in this fight. He's gonna go grappler heavy, I think, because he needs a win, honestly. Um, so with that being said, I think that Durden, this fight's gonna constantly be on the ground. Ochoa, he's only 24, man. Durden's 34. Like this is so calling for a crafty vet underdog Cody Durden to win this fight round three submission. Yeah, I'm going round three guillotine. No, round three, real naked choke. He gets on the back and submits him. We move on to the Unks. Michael Chiesa takes on Court McGee. 37 versus 40, 6'1" versus 5'11". I don't know why this fight's really happening. I don't know why Michael Chiesa keeps kind of getting gifted these old ass fucks on losing streaks. Um, the guy's 13-7, however, in the UFC compared to Court McGee's 11-12. McGee or Chiesa on a two-fight winning streak, both by finish over Max Griffin and Tony Ferguson. Chiesa's solid. His losses are very good. Holland, Brady, Luque back in the day beat Dariush, submitted Dariush. I believe took his donut as well. Beat RDA, armbarred Carlos Condit. Um, I think that him will most likely win a decision in this fight over Court McGee. He's getting very winnable fights, and we know how Chiesa fights. It's just kind of a better version of Court McGee. Not very good on the feet, strong grappler, strong submission skills. Um, McGee, on the other hand, in his last fight, sub Dirty Bird. Yeah, three fight losing streak before then, two by TKO. Court's just washed now, in my opinion. He's got a good wrestling ground game, but I just think KS is going to be so much stronger. He's going to be so much bigger and be able to dominate on the ground. Court McGee does have an 8-0 sub ratio, but I think that Chiesa could actually find a little sneaky submission in this fight. I'm sure the odds will be pretty decent on it. I'm going to take Chiesa to win this fight by 29-28 decision. However, I'm going to go 30-27 actually. 30-27 Chiesa. He probably just holds him on the ground the whole time. Clinch control, outstrikes him. But there could be a little Darce choke, a little submission sprinkled in there as well. So Chiesa by submission or decision is a pick. We move on to the light heavyweights. Umar C takes on Alonzo Atomic Menafield. Umar coming in 8 years younger at 29. He's 6'4" and 83-inch reach. What a fucking build for light heavyweight. He's 11-0 Frenchman, 2-0 in the UFC. He subbed Tuco Turcos in his debut in round one. And then in his last fight beat Dawoon Jung. And say what you want, but Dawoon Jung was actually pretty good. So that win, in my opinion, as much as Umar C didn't look great, he still outstruck the guy by 70 and had 2-0 takedowns on him. Um, Umar Sy has very strong submission ability, good takedowns, and he does have some pretty nice hands and some solid kicks as well. He does get hit a little bit, but by trusting his range. However, I just think he's going to come into his own element here. Like we're due for Umar Sy to have a breakout performance, and against someone like Alonzo Menafield, who's a stamp in the light heavyweight division, always really been a top 15 guy. Besides like kind of recently. I think that this is kind of a spot for Umar Sy to shine. Alonso's coming in off a win over a split decision over debuting Julius Juicebox Walker, who is like 5-0. Both guys gassed so bad it was a little fucking slugfest cardio fuck face. Before then he was finished by Azamat Murzakanov, who hasn't, and then before then showed zero fight IQ and ran at Carlos Olberg and got chinned in 10 seconds. Um, it's kind of hard to call in a way. I mean, like if Menafield can keep the fight standing, like sure you have a little bit of a chance because Menafield just slings bombs. To be honest, knocked down Jimmy Crute a couple times. I think he finished Crute. He sub Crute actually, which is a little weird. Um, I disagree with the odds. I don't think they should be this wide. It's pretty ridiculous. However, I'm taking Omar Sy to win this fight by round two submission. I just think that the strength, the size, the overwhelming factor of this. Give me Omar Sy to win by sub or naked choke. We move on to the middleweight division, I believe. We have Mansour Abdul Malik taking on Cody Brundage. This one's going to be pretty quick. I'm taking Mansour Abdul Malik to win this fight by round one TKO, probably on the ground. He's 8-0, 6'2", 80-inch reach, just a monster. He's got an 8-inch reach advantage here. He's 8-0, like I said, 2-0 in the UFC. Brutally knocked out No Chin Dusko Todorovic in his last fight in round one, or no, 2 fights ago. And then in his second fight, knocked out debuting Nick Klein, who's also a fucking can. He did face some adversity in that fight versus Nick Klein. He got hit with like a fucking spinning elbow or a spinning back fist, and it did rock him a little bit. But Mansour's got takedowns, vicious ground and pound. He's a fucking specimen, and I've written down that he has the power to knock out a family of eight, probably about 20 actually, knowing that fucker. Brundage coming off of a round one KO, however, over old as fuck three-fight losing streak, Julian the Cuban Missile Crisis Marquez, where he almost got finished by Julian. Um, I'm pretty sure that someone's mouthpiece got knocked out and it kind of reset the fight, and then Brundage was able to. Like, I had Brundage in that fight. He was an underdog, so like I kind of found that a bit retarded. But again, maybe it was for right reasons. He was nearly out. Um, he's 5-5 in the UFC. He's got a no contest in there as well. That no contest was two fights ago, I believe, to Abdul Razak Al Hassan, where he's lucky it got turned into a no contest. Razak was knocked him down brutally, almost chinned him, and then landed a couple shots to the back of his head, and they called the fight a no contest. Um, this guy has a decision loss to Cedricus Dumas. I wanted to just put that out there as my final point. I don't need to say anything more. I have more fucking notes about Cody Brundage, but he has a decision loss to Cedricus Dumas. You got outworked, outfought by Cedricus Dumas for 15 minutes. Fucking awful, man. Um, Cody has a chance to land that left hook. He does have some power in it, but Mansour by round 1K. We move on to my most anticipated fight of the night because my favorite fighter steps into the ring, potentially for the last time. Cody No Love Garbrandt takes on Raoni Barcelos. Um, sure, this might be biased, but I got some reasoning. I'm taking Cody Garbrandt to win this fight by KO or decision. Um, he lost his last fight to Davison Figueiredo by round two submission, his first time ever being subbed in his career. But people forget, man. Cody Garbrandt won that first round. He was hurting Figgy on the feet, touching him up real good, and he just made a really bad mistake on the get up in round two. He was against the fence and just kind of like got up like that and just gave up his fucking back. Really pissed me off. Yeah, his wins haven't been great recently. He KO'd fucking Brian Boom Kelleher in the first round and beat Trevin Jones by decision. But again, he's just getting his confidence back, and he's looked a lot better than what he has recently. He's not throwing like an absolute retard like Pedro Munoz and Kai Kara France, where he's just not in the right headspace, had too much going on in his life. And I would love just a little resurgence here. Raoni Bocelos, on the other hand, people know him obviously for beating Peyton Talbot in his last fight, 30-26 or something. Raoni's good, man. However, he is 38. His age hasn't like he's a young 38. He's on a two-fight winning streak over Christian Quinones by submission, who isn't very good, and Peyton Talbot in his last fight, where he grinded out a decision by a grapple-heavy approach. He would just go strike, 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 takedown, and get the takedown every time. Rowney used to be a very amazing fighter with finishes over Kurt Holloway, submitted Chris Gutierrez, beat Saeed Nurmagomedov. These were 7 years ago. Um, the guy got knocked out by Umar Nagomedov in the first round. It's just like Cody can fucking crack you, man. Rowney lands his punches at the very, he lands right here, like as you're fully extended, um, snappy 1-2s, and that just is so Cody Garbrandt counter KO in my eyes. He's way better, not way better. He is much better on the feet though than Rowney. His takedown defense has always been very solid. He's got an 80% takedown defense, doesn't get taken a lot down a lot, and when he does, he's quick back to his feet. He's got great scrambling. Um, Cody Garbrandt is the underdog in this fight. I gotta ride with my boy. Give me Cody No Love to win this fight by round one KO or decision. Yeah. We move on to Edmund Shabazian taking on Andre Petrosky. I've been flip-flopping with this fight all week, to be honest. Edmund is 27 compared to Petrosky's 33. In what world is Andre Petrosky, however, 8-2 in the UFC? It's ridiculous. In his last fight, he beat Rodolfo Vieira in a close decision, outlasting him. grind out a decision. His wins in the UFC are terrible. Besides that, he was finished by Michel Pereira in 1 minute, who's like realistically the only striker that he's fought in the UFC, and he knocked himself out against Jacob Malkoun shooting for a takedown. Um, I can see Petrosky getting down Edmund Shabazian and in the later rounds, kind of tiring him out and grinding a little submission win. That is definitely possible. But I'm hearing a lot of people just acting like Edmund Shabazian's cardio is so bad that Petrosky's just going to be able to take over. Petrosky's cardio is pretty terrible as well. Yeah, it's probably a little bit better than Shabazian, but the output as well is fucking terrible. Shabazian, the Golden Boy, on the other hand, he's 7-5 in the UFC. And when people say that someone was pushed too much, too far, too fast, that's Edmund Shabazian. He was almost in a title conversation 5 years ago when he was 22 years old, where he fought Derek Brunson in pretty much a title eliminator, and the winner went on to fight Israel Adesanya. His losses, however, are really fucking good. Jack Hermanson is probably the worst one. Nasruddin Imavov, Anthony Hernandez. Oh, sorry, got submitted by GM3. That's not good. Um, however, the guy's striking is very good. 11 of his 12 knockouts come in the first round, and I believe all of his wins in the UFC for the most part come by knockout. I think he has one submission in there. Maybe one decision, I think, against Darren Stewart as well, split decision. That's some guru shit if I can remember that one. That's not written down. In his last fight, he KO'd Dylan Budka in the first round. And I'm gonna go Edmund Shabazian to win by round one KO. Petrosky, just when it comes to the feet, he has nothing. He has a left hook, he has a body kick that he never throws. Um, Shabazian is just so dangerous in those first 5 minutes, those first 7 minutes. I'm gonna take him. Give me Shabazian to win round one KO. So main event, we have the ladies. Rose Namajunas, Thug Rose takes on Miranda Maverick. Um, Rose 32 to Mavericks 27. Mavericks on a four-fight winning streak over no one really. Jamie Lynn Horse in there, Deanna Barbosa, Andrea Lee. You get it. Miranda, excuse me. Miranda can only really win by dominating her, and what will she do? She'll just kind of shoot for takedowns and hope to hold you on the ground. I think Rose is going to show her levels in this fight. Her losses, Miranda, I believe she lost to Tracy Cortez and Jasmine Jasudavicius, so like okay wins. But again, those are people that like Rose beat Tracy Cortez. Rose would beat Jasmine Jasudavicius a couple of years ago, maybe. Rose 11-6 in the UFC, household name. Amazing in her prime, pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history, in women's MMA history and UFC history, by knocking out Joanna Jędrzejczyk for the belt. Knocked out Zhang Wei Li, beat her another time. However, recently has been kind of losing to the next kind of wave, the best of the best new wave, and beating these type of girls like Miranda Maverick. Or like to put that into context, Rose is losing to Manon Fiorot, title challenger, losing to Erin Blanchfield, future title challenger. She's beating Tracy Cortez. Eh. She's beating Amanda Hebos. Eh. Um, However, Miranda's just kind of in those Cortez and other fucks group rather than the Fiorot. I think that Rose is going to be able to keep this striking. When it goes to the ground, she'll be able to pop up pretty well. When it comes to the feet, Rose is going to be significantly better, and I think that she's going to win this fight by 29-28 unanimous decision. We move on to our main event. Kamaruddin, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, takes on Joaquin Buckley. Um, this is kind of sad to see, man, because Buckley's going to win this fight. 7 years younger. He's surging at welterweight. Since moving down, he's been on a tear, beating Colby by TKO, Wonderboy by KO, Nursultan Ruzaboyev decision, Luque by TKO. Those are his good names there. He's looking amazing, man. Hands for hands, who's better is a good ask. I mean, Usman's definitely got that cleaner. He's got a great jab, but Buckley's just so wild on the feet, man. He's hitting Wonderboy pretty good a couple times. I mean, obviously knocked him out. Um, And I don't think that he'll really take Usman down too much, maybe a couple times, because people forget, man, Usman had a 100% takedown defense a couple of years ago before Leon took him down, which is. Usman's path to victory, however, is wrestling, and I don't know how effective it'll be here. His knees are just so fucked. He's 38 now. Um, Again, like one of the GOATs, he's returning, but he's on a three-fight skid himself, losing on short notice to Hamzat Chimaev in a very close fight, actually. And then obviously the two Leon losses, one by head kick, one by decision. He's just so focused on he's a podcaster now with no knees. He hasn't fought in like 2 years, a year and a half. And it's just like how dialed really are you? What does a win necessarily get you? I'm sure like enough for Usman, but for Buckley, it's just so much more. I'm taking Buckley to win this fight by round four TKO or 49-46 decision. Um, yeah, I think that this will do it for old Kamaru Usman. Probably time to hang it up. So yeah. That'll do it for my full card UFC Atlanta predictions. Let me know what you guys are thinking, and see you next week. Deuces.